Hi, my name is Aditi Gangrade. I'm the co founder of Much Much Media, a disability led storytelling studio based out of Mumbai. I'm a late discovered autistic ADHD woman. My disability is an invisible one, so until I tell someone I'm autistic, they won't be able to tell. They might think I'm different or odd, but no one would believe that I'm disabled. And that's because of the limited understanding of autism and invisible disabilities we have. I never knew a disability could be discovered late in life. I never even considered disability to be something that could happen to me or that it would be a major part of my identity. That's what they call internalized ableism. Maybe that's what it was. Internalized ableism is a kind of ableism that is directed towards yourself, a kind of discrimination towards disabled people, but directed towards yourself. Although I did feel relieved and liberated knowing about my autism, but it was still hard for me to accept it. I often felt like I'm not autistic enough to deserve accommodations. At the same time, when I was with my neurotypical peers, I always felt like I could never be like them. Thinking, why do I need so many breaks? Why do I take a month to recover from a burnout? Why can't I communicate the way other people do? Why can't I just fit in? This internalized ableism took seed in me during my childhood. You see, most people who discover their disability or neurodivergence late in life might have no experience with disability or neurodivergence in their immediate circle. But that wasn't the case with me. I'll recap a bit into my childhood. Someone in my immediate family is disabled. My uncle, we call him Minu Kaka. He became disabled early on in his childhood. He's profoundly deaf, non speaking, recently acquired progressive blindness, and is an undiagnosed autistic. When he was young, everyone in the family doted on him. He learned how to stitch, paint, do arts and craft, and so much more. He was always a you name it and I'll do it kind of guy. Everyone thought if he became an all rounder, his disabilities would be balanced by his abilities, as if there was something inherently wrong with him that needed to be compensated for. I remember going to my grandma's house. Ours was a joint family. We all sat and talked for hours, played, sang, watched TV. But Minu Kaka was never a part of any of that. He sat with us, but he was never a part of our conversations because none of us learned sign language. We did a little sign thing with him when something important needed to be communicated to him, but no one in the family took the initiative to learn sign language, to be able to communicate with him, to include him in everyday conversations, or even try to understand him when he had bad days and felt really alone in a family of 13 people. Everyone loved him, but there was always this unsaid thing that he's a liability due to lack of awareness, lack of resources, lack of accessibility. He was never exposed to the outside world. My family didn't know any better either. One thing I constantly saw around me was that disability is undesirable. And by extension, disabled people are undesirable. If you have a disability, that's a bummer. It's on you. You have to prove to the world you are able, not disabled, and that you can do things just like able bodied, neurotypical people can, and that society won't consider it their responsibility to accommodate a disabled person or even make things accessible for them. Earlier this year, I discovered my autism, and I'm working on my internalized ableism by asking for accommodations, by taking those breaks I need in between to regulate myself, by stimming and saying no to sensorily overwhelming places, and by finding an autistic community that has had similar lived experiences as me. After underestimating and undervaluing my thoughts and capabilities, I have discovered that I'm a visual thinker. Anything with designs, color, film, I have a penchant for. I'm not a great talker, and talking about myself or my work doesn't come to me naturally. So I let my work speak for itself. I create films, documentaries, and web series. I design, I direct, and head up a team that creates content for my company, Much Much Media. Earlier this year, I conceptualized and directed a 6-episodic web series documenting stories of disabled and autistic young people. And this is all just the beginning. We run a community of over 15,000 people from across the world. People who are neurodivergent, disabled, their caregivers, and allies. I create content that educates, informs, and inspires people to include, not exclude. Our goal with Much Much Spectrum is to tell 1 million stories of disability and neurodivergence across platforms and formats. That, by the way, is just 0.1% of the total number of people with disabilities across the world. It might not happen in our lifetimes, but if we all contribute to putting together a system that enables it, we'll have done the groundwork for our future generations. My uncle is now in his late 50s. He doesn't know anything about the outside world. He thinks the world is exactly the way it was when he was a kid. I feel it my responsibility to educate, make people aware, and care for people like me, people like my kaka. It has taken me a long time to embrace my neurodivergence, and now I'm making people aware that my needs are valid too. As much as possible, I wouldn't like to see any other disabled person sitting in a corner while the entire family is bonding over chit chat. I would like people like me who get diagnosed late in their life to find appropriate support. I wouldn't want neurodivergent and disabled people to go through inaccessibility, biases, stigma, and exclusion. I would like to see the world an inch closer to inclusion. And everything me and other speakers on this summit are doing is geared towards the same goal. I know it's going to take a long time, but it will be worth working towards and waiting for.